You would think by the time you are over 50, finding a decent place to eat would not feel like rolling the dice. You want a meal that feels familiar, maybe a little indulgent, but not something that is going to leave you feeling worse than when you walked in. And yet, plenty of popular restaurants across the country are built more around frozen shortcuts and hidden sodium than real food. For seniors especially, those hidden ingredients and behind-the-scenes habits can mean more than just a disappointing dinner. They can mean serious health risks. And to kick off this list, we are starting with one of the biggest names out there, Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's feels like one of those safe choices, especially for folks over 50. You have probably been there with family or met friends for lunch, ordered those ribs or the fajita platter. But according to multiple employee reports and customer reviews, what you see on the plate is not always as fresh as it looks. One of the most repeated stories from former Chili's line cooks is about the way food is prepped in bulk and held in warming trays for hours. Those sizzling fajitas? According to several ex-employees, the sizzle is often for show. The meat is pre-cooked, held warm, and only thrown on the hot skillet, right before it hits your table. One line cook even shared that during busy shifts, meats like chicken and steak are batch-cooked in the morning and stored until needed, which means by dinner service it is reheated meat pretending to be fresh off the grill. The salads at Chili's are not much safer. While they are supposed to be a lighter option, multiple customer reviews mention wilted greens, rubbery grilled chicken, and dressings loaded with salt and sugar. One guest posted a photo of their Caesar salad with lettuce so brown, it looked like it had been sitting out for days. And as with many chains, sodium is a silent problem. One order of Chili's baby back ribs can push you past 2,000 milligrams of sodium in one sitting. For seniors watching blood pressure or managing kidney health, that is not a small thing. Cleanliness concerns show up in health inspections as well. Reports from locations in Texas and Florida have flagged issues like improperly stored meat and expired ingredients being kept on hand. One former server mentioned that during slower periods, some locations would hold on to prepped food longer than they should, rather than tossing it and starting fresh. For younger folks, maybe that does not seem like a big deal. But if you are over 50 and paying more attention to things like food safety, it is the kind of behind-the-scenes habit that matters. If Chili's leans on big flavors and loud presentation, Cracker Barrel hides behind old-fashioned charm. Rocking chairs out front, country store vibe, it feels like the kind of place where things are made from scratch and served with care. But according to former employees and customer feedback, the truth is not quite so wholesome. One of the biggest complaints about Cracker Barrel is frozen food. A lot of the dishes that look homemade actually arrive pre-cooked and frozen, ready to be heated up in a microwave or on the flat-top grill. Biscuits, gravy, even mashed potatoes. Several former line cooks have admitted that these are shipped in bulk from a central supplier, not made fresh in the kitchen. One worker shared that the mashed potatoes especially were just rehydrated from a frozen block, with butter and cream mixed in to make them look and taste homemade. Then there are the vegetables. Cracker Barrel likes to market its veggie plates, but several reviews mention finding limp green beans or mushy carrots that taste more canned than fresh. One older diner shared that the last time they ordered turnip greens, they arrived cold, straight from a holding tray that had clearly been ignored for too long. Cleanliness can also be hit or miss. Health inspection records in several states have cited Cracker Barrel locations for issues like dirty prep surfaces, employee hygiene concerns, and even pest control problems. One former server shared that during especially busy mornings, it was not unusual for biscuit trays to get reused without a proper wipe down in between. For seniors especially, food safety matters more than ever. Things like cross-contamination or lukewarm holding temperatures are not just bad service. They can lead to real health risks. And if you thought Cracker Barrel was an isolated case, Outback Steakhouse shows that even places branded around premium meats are not immune to the same shortcuts. Outback has built its name on big steaks and that famous bloomin' onion, but according to multiple employee reviews and customer complaints, a lot of what you see is more marketing than kitchen magic. One of the biggest issues reported by former Outback cooks is pre-cooked meat. While Outback does hand-cut some steaks in-house, much of the meat is pre-portioned and vacuum-sealed long before it gets near a grill. One former kitchen worker mentioned that steaks arriving in bulk packs were often kept in storage for days, sometimes even a full week before being cooked and served. And when those steaks started looking less than perfect, Extra seasoning or heavier marinades were used to cover up discoloration. That famous bloomin' onion does not get off easy either. According to employees, the onions are pre-prepped in large batches and frozen, then reheated in batches during service. One line cook described the process as dip, freeze, fry, with a lot more freezing involved than most customers realize. And when oil is not changed often enough, the end result is an onion that tastes greasy and stale instead of crisp and fresh. Sodium is another hidden danger at Outback. Many of their steak dishes and side items come heavily seasoned, which stacks up fast. One full Outback meal, steak, sides, bread, and salad, can easily top 3,000 milligrams of sodium. For anyone over 50 managing heart health, that is not just an indulgence. That is pushing into risky territory. Health inspection records show similar patterns to what we have seen before. Improperly stored ingredients, cooler temperatures that are not properly maintained, and employee hygiene lapses. One particularly telling customer review described ordering a steak medium rare, only to find it cold in the middle, a clear sign it had been batch cooked and poorly reheated. By now, you are probably noticing a theme. Whether it is Chili's, Cracker Barrel, or Outback Steakhouse, the same patterns show up again and again. Pre-cooked food passed off as fresh, sodium levels through the roof, and kitchen shortcuts that would never fly in a home kitchen. And while younger folks might shrug it off, for seniors over 50, those hidden details really matter. But we are just getting started. There are still 4 more restaurants on this list that deserve a closer look, places you might have visited for years without realizing what is really going on behind the kitchen door. Stick around, because the next 2 names might surprise you even more. If this is already making you rethink your usual lunch spot, take a second to tap like and hit subscribe. Kind of like saving yourself a seat at the table, but without the hidden sodium and microwave shortcuts. And if you thought places like Chili's, Cracker Barrel, or Outback Steakhouse were the only ones taking shortcuts behind the scenes, there are still more surprises waiting. Because while those first 3 restaurants lean into big plates and big portions, the next 2 often present themselves as lighter, quicker options. But for anyone over 50 looking to stay healthy and avoid hidden risks, these 2 are worth a second thought, starting with Subway. Subway built its whole image on being a healthier choice. Fresh vegetables, build your own sandwiches, and bread baked in store. But according to former employees and countless customer reports, the reality can look very different, especially once you step behind the counter. One of the most common things ex-Subway workers mention is the freshness, or lack of it, when it comes to their vegetables. While you might expect the lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers to be chopped that morning, in many cases they are pre-cut in large batches and stored in bins for hours or even days. One former sandwich artist shared online that at their location, it was not unusual for lettuce to sit in tubs in the walk-in refrigerator for 2 or even 3 days before it all got used up. That same employee mentioned having to pick out slimy pieces before refilling the prep stations. And it is not just the produce. Subway's famous bread may smell like it is fresh from the oven, but that smell is part of a calculated process. According to multiple former employees, the bread dough arrives frozen, is proofed in-store, and then baked. That means you are not really getting handmade, scratch-made bread. It is industrial dough baked in batches. One ex-manager pointed out that some locations will bake large amounts of bread early in the day and store it until needed, meaning your sandwich roll could be several hours old before it ever gets cut. The meats at Subway bring their own set of concerns. One of the biggest issues, especially for seniors watching sodium intake, is just how processed many of the meats are. Turkey, ham, roast beef, most of it is pre-sliced, pre-packaged, and pumped full of preservatives to keep it shelf-stable. A single sandwich can easily stack up over 2,000 milligrams of sodium once you factor in the bread, meat, cheese, and sauces. And while younger folks might not think twice, for people managing high blood pressure, heart conditions, or kidney health, that hidden salt can be a real danger. Former employees have also talked about cross-contamination concerns. With so many sandwiches being made back-to-back, it is easy for knives and cutting boards to get used for both meat and vegetables without proper cleaning in between. One employee specifically shared a story about slicing chicken and then immediately cutting lettuce without washing the knife, just to keep up with lunch rushes. For seniors with more sensitive immune systems, that kind of shortcut can lead to more than just a bad sandwich. Health inspections back up some of these concerns. Reports from Subway locations across the country have flagged things like improperly stored ingredients, coolers running at unsafe temperatures, and even expired food products being served. While not every store has the same issues, the pattern shows up often enough to make a difference. Now, if Subway leans on the fresh illusion, Arby's takes things in a completely different direction. Where Subway pushes light sandwiches, Arby's leans into roast beef, curly fries, and that signature sauce. And for seniors craving something a little heartier, it might seem like a solid option. But according to customer reviews and employee confessions, Arby's menu hides some real problems. Let us start with the meat. Arby's famously boasts about slicing roast beef fresh in-store. And while some of that is true, the meat itself arrives pre-cooked, vacuum-sealed, and ready to be reheated. According to multiple former employees, the roast beef is warmed in large bags, often kept in holding drawers for hours. One line cook described the process as heat, slice, repeat, with no guarantee that what you get is anything close to freshly cooked. And when the holding times get stretched too long? Some employees shared that instead of tossing out old roast beef, staff were told to slice it anyway and cover it with extra sauce to mask any dryness. Arby's sides do not fare much better. The curly fries, mozzarella sticks, and potato cakes are all frozen before hitting the fryer. And while that is not unusual for fast food, former employees mentioned that some locations reuse frying oil far longer than recommended. One worker admitted that during busy stretches they would go days without changing the oil, just topping it off to keep things moving. For older adults, consuming foods fried in old oil is not just a flavor problem. It can also mean taking in oxidized fats that are harder on the digestive system. Sodium and fat content are two of the biggest concerns with Arby's menu. One large roast beef sandwich with fries and a drink can easily top 2,500 milligrams of sodium and over 50 grams of fat. That is a full day's worth of sodium in a single meal. And while plenty of people enjoy a splurge now and then, for seniors trying to stay mindful of heart health or cholesterol, those numbers add up quickly. Arby's health inspection records show familiar issues as well. Locations in multiple states have been cited for improper food handling, cooler malfunctions, and sanitation lapses. One particularly eye-opening customer review described receiving a sandwich with plastic still attached to one of the cheese slices, a clear sign that attention to detail is not always what it should be. Even Arby's famous sauces come with hidden ingredients. Former employees mentioned that some of the dipping sauces, like the Arby's sauce or horsey sauce, are made from pre-mixed bases high in sugar and sodium. So while they add flavor, they also quietly increase the health risks in ways that are easy to overlook. By now, a clear pattern should be coming into focus. Whether it is Subway's solids sitting in bins for days or Arby's roast beef steaming in a holding drawer for hours, both places follow the same playbook: bulk prep, hidden sodium, and freshness. That depends more on marketing than on what is actually happening in the kitchen. And while that might work fine for younger diners, for anyone over 50 trying to eat a little smarter, those hidden details can make all the difference. But we are not done yet. There are still 2 more restaurants on this list, and they might just be the most surprising of all. Stick with us because the next names are places you would expect to be more careful. But behind those familiar logos, things are not always as neat and tidy as they seem. And as we wrap up this list, it is time to look at the last 2 names. 2 places that almost everyone recognizes, including folks over 50. Applebee's and Burger King. These are the kinds of restaurants that feel safe because they are familiar. You have probably eaten there more times than you can count. Maybe even ordered your usual without giving it much thought. But according to customer reviews, health inspections, and former employees, both of these restaurants carry hidden risks that are especially important for seniors to know about. Starting with Applebee's. From the outside, it looks like the kind of casual sit-down spot where nothing too serious could go wrong. You get a burger, a salad, or one of those sampler platters. But former Applebee's line cooks have shared some eye-opening details about what actually happens behind the kitchen doors. One of the most common things mentioned is the way food is pre-cooked and stored. Items like grilled chicken, pasta, and even some steaks are often cooked in large batches early in the day and kept in warming trays or coolers until they are reheated to serve. One employee described it as a microwave and plate operation. That is not the kind of fresh cooking most diners expect when they sit down and look at a laminated menu. Even things like the spinach and artichoke dip, one of Applebee's most popular appetizers, are not what they seem. According to several former workers, it arrives frozen in bulk bags. Staff heat it up in the microwave, stir it, and serve it as if it were house-made. Multiple customer reviews back this up, with some mentioning dishes that arrived lukewarm or unevenly heated, a telltale sign of microwave prep. Sodium content is another major issue. Applebee's meals can easily pack over 3,000 milligrams of sodium in one sitting. Take their Fiesta Lime Chicken, for example. Between the marinade, cheese, and side dishes, that one plate is enough to blow past the recommended daily sodium limit for most adults over 50. Add in a side of chips and salsa or dessert, and the numbers climb even higher. Cleanliness reports from Applebee's locations across the country reflect the same issues seen at other chains. Health inspections have cited problems like food stored at unsafe temperatures, improperly cleaned prep stations, and even pest control concerns. One former employee shared a story about discovering fruit flies in the bar garnish containers. Definitely not something you want floating in your lemonade. Another customer shared a review about ordering a steak medium rare, only to receive something that was ice cold in the middle. That is a clear indicator of food being pre-cooked, stored, and only partially reheated before serving. And while that might not seem like a huge deal to everyone, for seniors dealing with weaker digestion or specific dietary needs, it can mean real health consequences. Now, if Applebee's is the friendly neighborhood grill gone too corporate, Burger King shows how fast food habits can sneak up on you even faster. Most people already know Burger King is not exactly health food, but for seniors over 50, there are a few extra things to keep in mind beyond just calories and fat content. One of the biggest concerns comes from how Burger King handles its meats. According to multiple former employees, while the chain advertises flame-grilled burgers, the reality is that much of the process happens far in advance. Patties are often cooked in large batches and held in warming drawers until needed. One employee described seeing burgers sit in those drawers for up to 30 minutes before being served, drying out as time passed. Those warming drawers are not always carefully maintained either. Health inspection reports from several Burger King locations show citations for holding food at unsafe temperatures. One senior customer mentioned in a review that their Whopper arrived cold in the middle, even though the outside looked freshly grilled. That is more than just a bad bite, it is a potential food safety risk. Burger King's fried items come with similar issues. Fries, onion rings, and chicken nuggets are all pre-frozen, which is not unusual. But several former employees shared that some locations go too long without changing the fryer oil. One worker mentioned seeing oil so dark and thick, it looked more like syrup than cooking oil. Eating food fried in old oil is not just about taste. It can introduce harmful compounds that are especially hard on older stomachs. Sodium levels at Burger King are another hidden danger. A standard Whopper with fries and a drink can easily push well over 2,000 milligrams of sodium. For someone over 50, especially anyone managing high blood pressure or heart conditions, that is a heavy load to handle from one meal. Even menu items that sound healthier, like the grilled chicken sandwich, can sneak in huge amounts of salt through marinades, sauces, and seasoning blends. Cleanliness and food handling are also a frequent complaint among Burger King customers. Multiple reviews mention receiving undercooked chicken sandwiches, burgers with unwrapped cheese still attached, and even foreign objects like bits of plastic in their meals. One particularly memorable story shared online involved a customer finding part of a glove cooked into their sandwich bun. Incidents like that are rare, but they show how easily things can go wrong in a high-volume kitchen focused more on speed than precision. Former employees have also shared concerns about cross-contamination. During busy times, it is not uncommon for the same gloves or utensils to be used on both raw and cooked foods. One worker admitted that in a rush they sometimes grabbed pre-cooked burgers with the same tongs used to load raw patties onto the grill. For younger diners, that might just mean a little extra risk, but for older adults with more sensitive immune systems, it is a whole different level of concern. By now, the bigger picture should be clear. Whether it is Applebee's reheating frozen dips or Burger King holding burgers in drawers for half an hour, both places follow the same playbook that we have seen throughout this list. Bulk prep, sodium overload, questionable freshness, and food safety shortcuts that would not fly in a home kitchen. And while these things might seem small on their own for seniors trying to stay healthy while still enjoying a meal out, they add up quickly. That is why, if you are over 50, paying attention to where you eat is about more than just avoiding a soggy salad or cold burger. It is about protecting your health, your wallet, and your peace of mind. And while familiar names like Applebee's and Burger King might feel comfortable, it is always worth taking a closer look before sliding into that booth or pulling up to the drive-thru window. If this video helped open your eyes to some of the hidden habits at these popular spots, go ahead and tap like and hit subscribe. Around here, we will keep digging into what really happens behind the kitchen door, so you can keep your meals simple, safe, and satisfying. And remember, the truth is not always on the menu.